Our gospel for the Sunday comes to us from John, the 6th chapter. Now, when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat until they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders. And they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And there are also many other traditions that they observe, the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" He said to them, "Isaiah prophesied rightly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandments of God and hold to human tradition.' Then he called the crowd again and said to them, 'Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, folly. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person.'" This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated. Would you join with me in prayer? O Lord, may the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Okay, I'm going to sing a little song. Bear with me. I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar sting. Try to push it all away, but I remember everything. What have I become, my sweetest friend? Everyone I know goes away in the end. And you could have it all, my empire of dirt. I would let you down, I would make you hurt. It's not the best version that anyone's ever sung of that, but that's Johnny Cash's Hurt. And the astute amongst you might quickly say, no, it's not, that's Trent Reznor. That's Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails who sang that song. And I would say back to you, one thing first of all, Trent said to Johnny after he sang that, he said, "That's your song now." And the reason why is because Johnny Cash had taken something that may have been angsty, that may have had an edge of teenageriness to it, and turned it just with his voice, with his singing, and with his life into something really far more profound. And it's at the time of Johnny's life that he's writing this after, or that he's performing this after June had passed away, as he's a man looking back on his legacy and his mistakes and on everything that he was, that he brings this gravitas to this song. As a person who also knew addiction, the same thing as Trent Reznor, the same person who also spent time with that needle and understood just what it felt like to be the lowest of the low and to be so ashamed and so broken by this thing, he was able to speak from that. He was able to sing out of that. It became, and I think really is, a very impactful song. If you haven't heard it, you should. It's really quite powerful. The reason why I think I was thinking of the song was actually also the video for it, which is disgusting. It's a gross video. It has scenes of rotting, a table filled with rotting fruit and food, and just a display of defilement. And Johnny, for his own part, spills wine all over it in the scene, just demonstrating his disregard for it all. He's just throwing it all away. It's his empire of dirt as he displays it. It's what the Bible is talking about in today's passage. Defilement as a word, if you just look, what does the word defilement means? It's to consider something dirty, just to say that it's gross or disgusting. What's interesting about this term defilement is that not only does it mean that something is gross, but it also is an ethical term. It says bad. It's gross and bad together. Human beings are really good at this, right? We don't just not like something and say that it doesn't stand up to our ethics. We also say that it revolts us. And we show our disgust for things in that way. This is obviously a huge part of being human. It's a huge part of the law of Israel, is to call certain things unclean and to try to develop a consciousness of what is considered gross and what is considered pure or good. In terms of washing your kettles and your pans and doing your dishes, I hope that you still consider that it's good to cook out of clean cookware. The Bible is not wrong about that, and Jesus did not suddenly in this passage say you don't have to do your dishes anymore. That is not the point. But the point of Jesus' message here is, to put it as philosophically as possible, to decouple aesthetics, or the study of beauty, from ethics, the study of what is right and wrong. Because he rightly points out that associating them one-to-one is very problematic. Now, I would say that of all the teachings of Christ, on its surface, this is the one that our culture has largely said, oh, that's easy, he's right. This is the one thing we can all agree that Jesus is right about. I think, however, the way that our culture is teaching Jesus' message here is thin. I think it's really superficial. I think that probably what you'd call it is the doctrine, our culture's doctrine of inner beauty, that says, oh, a person will show you from their soul and from their actions and their personality that even if they're ugly on the outside, filled with warts and all, that they can do beautiful actions, and so we should consider that person beautiful. But if you have ever had the experience of being on the wrong end of our culture's beauty standards, or just, I wouldn't even say culture, just of human beings, then you will know that we have not fully exorcised this demon from our souls. It is still very, very present. And maybe for you it was that you looked away at a time where you weren't supposed to be looking that way. You weren't supposed to be present, showing up that way. Maybe you were too old for the setting that you were in, and you felt those eyes upon you, judging you and saying, there's something wrong about your presence here. You defile this location by being the way you are. You're too old, too disabled. Human beings are also really great at determining class and looking at what a person is wearing and how they are exhibiting what class they're a part of. And it's inappropriate to be the wrong class in a situation. Or gender. If we can't figure out what gender you are, human beings are really quick to say there's something wrong about you. There's something that makes me uneasy. I don't like you, and you gross me out because of this. This is a part of the human heart, and it is omnipresent. And if you haven't felt that way yet, and if you've never had this experience of having somebody being disgusted at you, you will eventually. And it will be hard. It is an incredibly hard feeling to feel that way. One of the foundational and most important principles of the Christian church is that we put a cross, sometimes with a guy on it, hanging central in our service. It's a disgusting image. It's an image of a person who is taking their final breaths on earth as they bleed publicly, disgustingly, as their flesh loses its life, and we gaze upon this image and call it good. We look at that dirty moment, that disgusting moment, and say, in this, transformation happened. In this person who was being made a mockery of, who was ritually defiled on purpose, we see ourselves, and we see not only what it was like to be reviled, but we also remember when we were the revilers, when we were the ones pointing a finger of disappointment and disgust at others, and say, in that moment, in that inversion, we became good in spite of our bad. And we were transformed. And that is a thing that is just fundamentally true. and certain and trustworthy. And that you know that you can feel that in your innermost being, where it cannot be taken away from you, where no one can reach you and assault you, is what I need you all to know. I need you all to know that far from a thin inner beauty dialogue here, we are talking about your actual worth that God has given you, a kind of beauty that is beyond compare and beyond assault. Now, the Gospel of James tells us one more thing, though, right? It says that knowing all that and trusting in it is one thing. Failing to act upon it renders all that nothing more than just sophistry, just me blabbing my mouth up here. We have to go and do something. We have to go make the world a more beautiful place as a result of what we have felt and what we have received. And we could put it together from our readings today to say that what is it to go do that? But it's to care for others, especially those who have been rejected, especially those who have been called dirty or defiled people, and to say to them instead that they have worth, that God found their worth, that God gave them that worth, and that if ever they feel alone, and if ever they feel down in the dumps, if ever they feel like Johnny Cash in that song, hurt, that they can receive and they can feel on the inside that they are indeed loved and worthy of love. Now, the other thing that Johnny Cash does in that song, Hurt, is he changes some of the lyrics, which is why I say it's fair to say that this is his song again now, because there's a Trent Reznor version that has swearing in it, and there's a Johnny Cash version that doesn't. What's interesting, though, is to take out the dirty word, the defiled word, instead, let's say with it, I'm not going to say the word, okay? I just want you to know right now, I'm sensing nervousness out there, but I'm not going to say any words. He takes the crown and calls it, Johnny Cash's version, a crown of thorns. What's interesting about his transformation of this song that was once just about what it felt like to be reviled is that he puts a Christological twist on it, in introducing the idea that perhaps this song is actually a song about Christ, that this song is about us and Christ with us. All the addressees of the song change as well. Who is the sweetest friend to whom this is addressed? Well, I kind of think about what a friend we have in Jesus. And finally, as the song ends, there's one final address, and it goes like this. He says, if I could start again, 1,000,000 miles away, I would keep myself. I would find a way. I pray that today you find that you have a way, a truth, and the life. Amen.